Hi everyone and welcome to the Leica Podcast. I'm your host Louise Goldstone and I'm really pleased to be joined here by Philipp Reinhard at the Leica headquarters in Wetzlar, Germany. Welcome Philipp, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Many thanks for the invitation.
Please introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Philipp Reinhard, I'm 35 years old, I'm a full-time photographer and filmmaker. Been in the business for over 10 years already. Everything I do is mostly sports and celebrity related. It starts with reportage up to portraits, also some sports scenes are part of it for sure, documentary, movie making, and also commercial stuff.
Amazing. It sort of led me on to, has sport always been a big part of your life, even before you started photographing it?
I think I was always a very active and sporty guy. I stepped into skateboarding, which was probably my really first big passion when I was 12 years old. Back then, I never wanted to say that skateboarding is a sport, but if you practice and practice and practice, it is somehow a sport, and it was my first big passion with skateboarding, movies, my culture thing in photography and seeing things and doing things differently, just really grow.
Yeah.
And later on, I started also playing basketball. I always love to go for a run, so I'm a very sporty guy, I would say. So it started early.
What stood out to you in the world of sport photography, and why did you sort of choose this pathway as a photographer? I know you have multiple different types of photography that you focus on, but just looking at sport.
I think what I always wanted to do is something which I really love, that I have a passion for. So in the beginning, I always said no to like weddings and all that stuff. Yeah. I never really wanted to, because I always wanted to give it all. And this was for me sports. Sports was for me interesting because you never know what happened. You really have to work in quite short time periods with situations you have to deal with. You have to anticipate a lots of things, and there's usually never a second chance to take the same picture. And I think this is what interested me most. But I also love like street photography and all the stuff. Yeah. So I'm not only a commercial photographer. I usually never leave the house without a camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you aware, that this type of photography could be a profession? I think a lot of people start by taking photographs and then work out whether that could be something that they could do as a job.
Well, that's a very interesting question, and it changed in the past 15 years, my view on photography, because in the early years of skateboarding, I just got a little saving, and I bought an old video camera on Craigslist. And for me, filmmaking was always the thing I wanted to do, but I was never sure if I could be a self-employee or anything close to that. And the photography was always a part for me back then. So I grabbed an old analog camera in our school photography lab, and I just kept shooting.
Yeah.
And I was always worried because I never learned photography, and I was worried about flashing and all this stuff. So I think I never really was so much into photography that I could ever expect it to earn some pennies from it. But over the time, when I was doing like the movie stuff on skateboarding, it just grew and grew and grew and just went a bigger part of my daily business. And with the photography thing evolving, and also with the filmmaking and earning some little pennies with it, I think it just happened that the passion for photography just grew over the one of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I think I was never really aware of that I could be a full-time photographer.
Yeah.
Because I was so worried in the beginning, and I'm still these days. But I think it just went well and was just a very nice progress.
I think sports photography is often viewed as a sort of documenting singular moments. Why is that added element of storytelling important to you?
I think nowadays sports photography I think it's a very hard business.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty happy that I'm not into these agency and quick selling pictures business. Yeah. So I'm always with a team or with an athlete or with a federation. So I can focus on aesthetics.
Yeah.
Not only on speed. Speed is also very important for me, but it's not the most important thing for me. For me, it's the most important that it stands out. Like all the extra things left and right, being with them on the plane, being with them before the game, after the game, in the locker room, at the training. For me, the full circle moment of showing like everything also beside these very precise sports photography moment of somebody shooting a goal is for me even more important than a single frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking at your career in sport photography, how did that sort of come about? From starting as a skateboarder, going into filmmaking, and then ultimately doing what you're doing now.
I think that skateboarding shaped me the most out of it. Usually, you did something for a skateboarding brand, and they couldn't even afford to pay anything for it. So usually you get the short or a skateboard or a hat or a shoe, whatever, but nobody ever said this is wrong or we want to do it differently. And I think in skateboarding it was highly appreciated to do something unusual, something new, something unseen. So in the progress you try to edit a little bit more than a little bit to less. And I think this was for me a door opener for lots of different other sports, like photography, because like the business of photography was back then, and it's probably still today, a very classic business. So nobody really tried very often to do something unusual. This is why probably most sports photographers even don't like me seeing me around the pitch, or some of them, because I'm just doing it differently.
Yeah.
And this just, I think, evolved out of skateboarding. So it brought me first into the game of football, afterwards in the game of basketball. And with these two fundamentals, I also stepped in the game of the Olympics. Yeah. And somebody just saw my stuff. And then it went to tennis, and it just go on and go on and go on.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. I really enjoy not being specialized in just one single sport. Yeah. I love to see like all the difference, but you also need to know the rules of the sport.
Yeah.
Like when ends a game, could there be only a deuce?
Yeah.
Or something? So you need to know a little bit about everything, but I think it just evolved, and it all started in skateboarding and just doing things differently, which would be, if somebody asked me, a good advice for young photographers, just to do things totally separately from the mainstream and trending stuff, and just by your own idea.
Yeah. How did that collaboration with the German national team come about?
That's probably a story I shouldn't tell here, but it's a full circle moment, because in the end it all started with Leica. I think it was, oh my gosh, maybe 15 years ago. I did a short visit at the Photokina back then in Cologne, and I ran into a guy at Leica, and we talked a little bit. I heard that there's a workshop with the outstanding photographer French Fred, a skateboard legend, so somebody I always looked up, a big inspiration for years. And I asked if I could join the workshop. They said, oh, somebody's sick, and just go on. I asked, it worked. I stayed a day longer in Cologne. I went to the workshop, and in the end there was like a workshop winner. Fred picked me, and I was maybe a little bit on a short list for Leica. I always come up with like little projects, and I never worked to get like a Leica for a month or something, or just collaborate. But I think after a year and a half, back then it was René, asked me a mail, there's a project we can't really talk about, and maybe I can come up with 2 mood boards. There are 3 different jobs they want to, young and upcoming photographers, I think the case was named like this. And I prepared a little bit. It was all skateboarding, it was all black and white. Still, back to this day, I was only taking pictures on film. And later it turned out it was the DFB, and they wanted to collaborate with Leica and doing anything with a young and upcoming photographer. And they wanted to look for 3 different photographers, and the DFB liked my stuff so much, they said, that they only choose 2 photographers. And I got the reportage job in a stadium, but just in the stadium, not with the team. So I was taking pictures of fans, and I also did pictures of for autograph cards for the European Championships 2016. And I tried to come up with a concept of doing things totally different. So I said, maybe we go out, maybe we go in real lighting conditions and not in the studio, and taking the autograph cards out there on a rough football court. And I was sitting in Frankfurt at the headquarters back then, and they said, hey, Philipp, it's a nice idea, but you may know we can't bring the guys out. But probably it's no problem for you to take the pictures with flash. And I was like, no, it's no problem. Till this day, I've never took a single flash photo. So I quickly came up with a flash setup at my mom's home back then. We photographed with 2 friends, like every sports club around, all the small city clubs, and just practice for 3 weeks. I came up to the hotel. We shot on 2 days the autograph cards, clients happy. And over the years, it just grew. Yeah. We went for coffee, we went for espresso, we did some single jobs, being behind the scenes with Bastian Schweinsteiger for his farewell game. We did the same with Lukas Podolski. And a year later, it was a discussion if they maybe need, with social media coming up, a team photographer. And here I am. Till 2017, I'm part of the German national team as a team photographer.
Really cool. I think you spoke a bit about reportage. Do you think these sort of detail shots and sort of storytelling moments are as important as the sort of big winning moments?
I think they are probably the same important.
Yeah.
Because they are not related to victory.
Yeah.
And I think a federation and a national team, they are not together all year. So this is without the tournament, maybe 50, 60 days. With a tournament, it could be up to 100 days. But it's in March, it's in May, then there's maybe a tournament or not, and then it's September, October, and November. But in all the months in between, there's nothing you can talk about victory, about the last goal. So you need to come up with other stories, other storytelling, other portraits and insights of the players and the team. So I think in total, it's very important to see the whole picture. In the end, the victory is all. You can take the greatest picture of Florian Wirtz celebrating the biggest goal. If you lose 2-1, nobody cares about this picture. Otherwise, if it's the most important picture, maybe it could get a prize, because there's also like a historic story around it. But so it's all very important in sports. It's always about winning. Take the greatest pictures. You guys losing, nobody's really interested in. You're taking mid pictures. They're just good. You don't think you come up with really great pictures. But guys are on success. They're winning and winning and winning. Everybody will love the pictures.
Yeah, super cool. Is there any moment in your career, speaking of winning moments, is there a moment in your career where you felt like you were witnessing an elite moment in sport history?
Yeah, maybe the really first and big one was at the Olympics back in Tokyo 2021 during the COVID pandemic. You're always trying to look for these moments, but I'm the least important to plan it or to be barred if it's happening or not. I'm just there and wait for it. And when Alexander Zverev went to the finals at the Olympics, there was maybe a chance to see like one of these historic moments where history will be still talked about in a couple of years. And in tennis, it's quite hard to move. Usually, you can only move and change perspectives and positions whenever there's a short break. So you really need to know, or you need to anticipate when the end of the game is going to. And as said, I tried to do things differently. So I looked where all the other photographers are. Then I thought a little bit, okay, maybe I go on the totally different opposite of them. I looked in the stadium. It sounds a little bit too big. It was not that big, but I just looked a little bit around what could be my foreground, because I love to level up pictures just to give them a different depth, to give them a different depth.
Yeah.
And there was like an empty chair in front of me. And I thought maybe it could be nice if Sasha is celebrating big time to put him on the chair in the empty stadium. And he was celebrating. There's like a TV recording where I was moving quickly around with a Leica SL and a Q3, and I was really in a rush. And so I tried to capture Alexander laying, sitting, just framed into the chair on his winning moment when he laid on the ground of the tennis stadium, with like all empty seats, all empty stadium. And on the top left corner, there is a very close up of him from the TV camera with him celebrating, both hands in his face. I think altogether, it's probably one of these moments you always waited for. Yeah. And in the end, I could also say it worked out well. And I was very, very happy.
You spoke briefly about the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo, and actually your work was included in a book with some other photographers during that time who were photographing. How did that book come about and that project sort of happen?
Yeah, I think this was one of the most interesting projects ever. Not also doing something during the pandemics and you could leave your hometown and your country, but also in the end what turned out, we were the first time together as this crew at the Olympics. It was Max Gallis, Paul Hüttemann, Marvin Ronsdorf and me, and we tried to do something very unusual. The German Federation never had, called Team Deutschland, some own photographers with them, and so we tried to do it a little differently. In the end, we came up with a lot of photos, and we asked if we could do a book. And Team Deutschland, they said, feel free to do a book. We may want to see it in the end, and let's see what happens. So we published our own company for selling the books, and we tried to do like all these funnel things but we were really bad. So we just came up with a really, I think, great product. We had a really nice design studio. I worked for years already, and Studio sowieso did like all the other designs for the up or later coming books. And it was really a lot of work to start from the scratch to do this book. But now every time I see the book, and also for the athletes, it is something which is very, very special to come up with something, I think these days, very unique. So we decided to go with the most expensive print shop. We decided to go on the most expensive paper. We decided to go on the most hours we could spend in the design and stuff. And it was crazy much work, but it's a lifetime memory. Printed in a book, which will be there for us forever. So
And we actually have it in the studio here as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is also like a picture from the moment where Alexander won the gold medal.
Amazing. Incredible. Great moment.
It looks like we would place it right there.
I know.
But it's coincidence.
Yeah, it is a coincidence that it exists there, but we had to talk about it. Aside from the sports that we've spoken about, you also work for more niche or smaller sports. What's that experience like comparatively?
I think the less a sport is probably sold out to TV and stuff, the easier you can move, the easier you can get access, and the more the club is maybe happy if you effort a lot. So I could easily move mostly around everywhere at the basketball club. I'm the team photographer for the past 10 years. But I'm still thinking, or I may know that I'm the only one in the first and second division who could easily come into the locker. But for our club, because we are not the top 5 club, it's very important also to talk about like losses or about losing, because we can't win always. Now in the second division, and we're rooting for the playoffs right now and going into at the second seed. So it was a good and a winning season, but like with these teams, you also need to talk openly about losing. So for me, it's sometimes the feeling that there's a little bit more appreciation of the players because they don't get so many pictures and photos usually from other clubs. And I also feel like coming up with big ideas at smaller sports and clubs, it's easier to get them done because not so many people talk about it. And whenever you earn trust for years, it's also very easy to come up with an idea and somebody say, we like it, it's very good, just go for it. And there are not too many people who needs also to overthink it. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's maybe a little bit too much, sometimes it's just maybe my perspective that I think as a photographer and filmmaker I just want to go everywhere and tell like all the stories that happened behind the scenes and behind the locker doors and stuff. But I also get the point why it's sometimes not possible.
You mentioned earlier the SL system, and that was a system which you were an early adopter of. What drew you to this camera system? I think you started with the first SL.
You're absolutely right. I think I just felt in love with Leica in general. So with the first big job, I took the decision to be a self-employee after the pictures will be published. And I quit my job at a media agency. And I spent all the money I earned from this job on a Leica SL, on a Leica S back then, a single lens and a Leica Q1. So after the SL launched, I knew I need to get something quicker. And so I bought the SL601, so the first generation with the 90-180 and the 50-1.4 and 24-90 over the time. I did not shop everything at once, but it worked for me from the beginning because I was not so deep into every sports moment I could easily capture. So I captured the World Cups 2018 also with the Leica SL1, and for me the autofocus still back then was mostly very fine and quick enough. With the third generation now, I think it's just great. I really can't complain. But for me, it just was like a very, very nice camera I always wanted to have in my hand because it's well built. The quality was great. The colors was nice. This was for me all more important than maybe the really, really, really best autofocus system back then. So the general setting with the SL and the Q1 was for me a really, really nice setup.
Yeah. I mean, now you're sort of known, especially on social media, to work with lots of different Leica cameras, old, new, analog, digital. Is photography and cameras a constant test and learn moment for you?
Maybe it's not test and learn. Maybe it's something more like rethink.
Yeah.
So for me, just go back to the Olympics this year. I was in Cortina. I knew I was shooting for almost 30 days, mostly the same sports in the same environment. If I come up with the Q3 and the SL3S, I could do easily every day the same and okayish pictures for 30 days. Hate is a big word, but I just don't like to double my work and my routines every day. So I thought I need to come up with a different system. So I bought an R8 with the digital back from the 2000s. And I come up with 180 millimeters 2.8 just to re-break my thinking and the structure in my head. I need to go on a different position, but at the same stadium. It's easy to say that you could easily do it with the same two camera bodies for 30 days, but it's not. And whenever you change the film to black and white or to color, or you use in Cinestill versus in Portra 800 or anything, you push up to 300,000 ISO, you just need to work totally different. And this is why I prefer and why I love to have a different approach every time I go to a field of play, just to think things differently. I hated the mornings. Looking at my camera bag, need to decide, do I bring the M11, do I bring the M6, do I get the R8 with film or with digital, do I bring the Q3 or the SL, which lens, whatever. But in the end, it was always worth it because I always needed to rethink every day a little bit new.
Yeah. What was it like photographing the Olympics with analog camera and on film? What was that experience like?
I think I did it 3 times before on film, one with an M6, one with a Minilux, but with the R8 and the possibility to bring up a bigger focal length. This was interesting because you did not only get for like atmospheric establishing mood shots, you could really go into sports photography with this kind of lens. And I think this was something very new, something very exciting, but also something looking back to the sports photographer in the early 80s, 90s, even earlier, and till like they started to using digital cameras. I have a high appreciation for these guys and girls using this technique with manual focusing and stuff, and you really never know if you got the pictures or not. Even with snow, it's not so easy to set the exposure right and stuff, and maybe you need to think about over and under exposing the film and stuff, so you really have to think a lot about it. And in the end, for me, an analog photo feels somehow like a bigger achievement. And I'm so excited to get the films always back. So it was very special, and this will be something I will really enjoy also in like 20 years, looking back in the archive and scrolling through analog photos and seeing if I maybe overlooked anything.
Great decision to kind of make to do that actually and do something a bit different. I'm just going to move into the part of the podcast we called Unframed, where we look at a few images together, and you've provided me with these images but given me literally zero context, so I'm going to describe it quickly and then you can talk about what the photograph is. So this first photograph that I'm looking at is with the chair. I think this is what you mentioned earlier, actually, with the empty stadium, a tennis player framed by a chair at the side of the stadium, and then the front-facing image of him on the screen. Yeah, could you give a bit more information than maybe you did earlier?
Yeah, when looking back to the moment, I remember that I was also like a little pumped and just nervous because I knew that something maybe for me special could happen, more for Sasha, but for me behind the camera. And I was thinking like the whole game, the whole match, about what could be a great finishing shot. Should I be like on top of the stadium and trying to go like very wide angle? Should I try to be very, very closed up? But in the end, the Olympics in Tokyo were about no audience.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show as much as possible of this story in one picture. That the TV camera is this close and show like a different part of Sasha is just a very nice coincidence. And it helps the picture just to bring like a different layer to it. Something you can experience when you look for a little longer to the photo. As mentioned, I love to put something in the foreground.
Yeah.
To bring a little bit a story to the picture. And then I saw an empty chair and I was like, an empty chair in an empty stadium, this is great. And I knew I had to take first a close-up with DSL in the 280 mil.
Yeah.
Just to have the safe shot for the company I was there, for the German Federation, and also to get Sasha very closed up. And then he fall on the knees, and I just took the cue, and I knew I had to work 9:16, like the vertical format for social, and try to frame him perfectly. And I think I try not to be very open, but also not very closed on the aperture. So the chair is kind of sharp, but not too sharp. So the main focus is still on Sasha, and we have still a separation from the fore to the background and to the main subject.
Yeah.
For me, there's still some. I remember afterwards my mobile phone was ringing and like all the people were sending me crazy videos that I move like crazy in the background to get the photo, and I was very, 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 very hyped. I remember this.
I think especially because of that context of COVID, no audience is insane. It's such a surreal kind of moment. Moving on to this next shot, we have football as the key theme here. It's actually quite a nice sort of movement and lighting in this shot. You know, very different, staged in a studio setting. What can you tell me about this photo?
Yeah, it's Toni Kroos, probably one of the most award-winning German footballer until today, and he was a very important player for the national team and also at Real Madrid. And Real Madrid, they are well known for like white jerseys all the time. And I knew that Toni is always playing in white shoes, a very old white Adidas shoe. And I knew I wanted to come up with an idea to Toni from myself, from my own motivation during the European Championship, where he returned to the national team, and he also did retire before from Real Madrid. So I knew this would be like a possibility to pitch him an idea about a very special farewell photography from stepping out, also not only from Real Madrid, also for quitting his professional football career. And I knew also if I pitch him the idea, there's only one shot. And I told him, Toni, I have an idea, like farewell, all white jersey, and we add a little bit for the story. So with and this was, in the beginning, it was not iconic, but in the end it was iconic to play this kind of shoes, which was a very old shoe. And he asked at Adidas if they could produce as much shoes as he needs to end his career. So he calculated just a certain amount of shoes. And in the beginning, it was just strange because the shoe was not new anymore, like the model itself. And in the end, everybody knew Toni would never change his shoe again. And it was just part of his style of football. And so I thought to add these different kinds of things to one picture could be very nice. So I came up with the idea. I asked him, and he just said, okay, we do this. I think it's a nice idea. And I said, should we do it tonight or tomorrow? And he was like, let's see which is our next opponent. And I was like, come on, this is for me too dangerous. I think it's a good idea. If we lose, the picture won't happen. And he was like, we're going to win. We're going to win the next game. We do it after the next game. Tony was right. He was very experienced. He knew it very well. We did the shooting. And for me, definitely one of my, not even because of the story, I think it's somehow timeless, which I think is always nice. I think it's lighting-wise, posing-wise, everything. It's very, all in all, everything goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that just come together. You sometimes can't plan.
Yeah.
Nobody asked for it. Everybody was happy about it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And we actually have another photograph from you, which is Dua Lipa. So a very, very well-known person globally for a different reason than to sport maybe. But she's posing in front of a car. What can you tell me about this photograph?
Also, this photograph almost did not happen. I was booked from Porsche for the tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart, and they just saw how I worked with the female athletes. And the hitting player from Arina Sabalenka, which is WTA ranking number 1, so world's number 1, asked me to come with her to the museum and stuff, and they saw he was doing quite well with like these personalities. Long story short, afterwards they came up and asked me if I could take pictures of Dua Lipa at the next event. It was in Monaco. We did it. It worked well. Dua asked if we could do the next one with Philipp too, and not to bring somebody else, because it was just nice. And I just came up with the idea to bring actually nobody. I was not even with an assistant there. I hold the light myself on a tripod or just moved it myself. But I thought, if it's always trouble and it's always so many people and so much going on, just do the opposite. Show up, be prepared, know what you want, but very, very lightweight and small. She was happy. Pictures turned out great. We went to Goodwood. One of the Porsche guys came to me and said, she just asked if you are around for the pictures, like she asked for. And so the pressure was on. I always try not to shoot at midday, but it was at midday. I did not even know where to shoot, because it was right before there's like, in Germany we say Bergrennen. I would say it's a mountain race, something like this. So they just go up a mountain. It's very nice for the audience because you can really listen to some great engine sounds.
Yeah.
And so the cars were like moving all the time. So I didn't know nothing. I need to anticipate and think about and try to get rid of like all the other cars in front and under the back of the car. So not even moving around the car, but I also came up with the idea just to jump quickly on like a Heuballen, like a hay block.
Hay bale.
And I asked the guy who just told me that she was at the styling and stuff, if he could come up and hold me my small flashlight. He did it, also one-man crew. And I think we did for me also special and nice moment, which looks like later somebody sent me a Reddit thread that they talked about the big lighting crew and stuff, and I was just a little bit man, we were one photographer and the guy who held the light, which I highly appreciated. So Dennis is a very nice guy, but all in all it was like a small crew, good atmosphere, good vibes.
Amazing.
It's just a quick idea.
Incredible. Speaking of cars, you've also, as you mentioned, worked with Mercedes-Benz and Porsche. was the world of car photography a natural transition for you?
I think cars are also like a very traditional field of work in photography. It may change over the past years, but it was back then. And I really start to enjoying like being the man who brings people in front of a car and just do it a little differently.
Yeah.
So we do that with Roger Federer at the Leica Cup.
Yeah.
To mention another example.
Yeah.
And I think this is something which is also a very nice topic and a very nice field where you can try new stuff.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because you mentioned about shooting on the SL3 and also doing something a little bit different with storytelling. And what I wanted to kind of separate from, obviously there's a commercial side of things, but also how you tell your own stories and how you travel and what you kind of do from that perspective. And looking at your story that you did with the SL3 in Bangkok, and how did those moments feel very different, but you're still utilizing the same skills regardless? So you could be shooting Dua Lipa one day, but then going onto the streets of Bangkok and photographing urban sports.
Yeah, that's... I think the story itself was very nice. It just connected two worlds of my photography. I don't see myself as a commercial photographer, but also not as a street photographer. I think in general, I just love photography, and I usually bring a camera everywhere I go. Sometimes I feel like a little overpowered, so I keep it at home for a while, but usually I bring always a camera, and I'm always looking for curious moments on the streets, and also like the family stuff and just the beauty of everyday life. So for me, the Bangkok story just connected these two worlds of like the commercial work I do and also like the everyday moments I love to see. Whenever I'm visiting a certain city, and I heard that there's like a baseball team. Just imagine the last time I went to Orlando and I just walked around the sunset, and there were like a kids team playing baseball. I just sneaked into, I took a couple of pictures. I just love stories.
Yeah.
And I just love to work with people, get in touch. I'm always very interested in the people. Not because I have to, because I love to hear their story. I love to tell their story. And for me, like having a camera with me all the time is not only a diary for me, but also something which is so much fun, bringing me through everyday life, seeing situations, taking pictures of it. But I'm also not too serious about it. Usually I take most of the shots with the Q or the M6 out of my waist level.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm on vacation, I usually never stop for too long for waiting for a picture.
Yeah.
I just go and I just walk and I just see the city, and I take most of the pictures on waist level. And afterwards I see if it worked or not. Usually I'm not sad if I missed something, but also very happy to see like all the stuff I could capture and all the moments I could preserve for seeing later times. I'm also like very happy to post things on social media and share it with other people to show my vision or the stuff I captured. And this is something which is for me very special and just connects both of the worlds. Yeah.
How did that project with the SL3 come about? Was it simply a process of you were traveling to Bangkok and you knew there would be something there? Or was it maybe a little bit more structured?
Yeah, my wife and I, we took a time out or like a sabbatical for almost 6 weeks. And we spent 3 weeks in Vietnam and 3 weeks in Thailand. And time out and bringing the camera like a prototype is maybe not going hand in hand, but for me it was not too stressful to have a beautiful camera on me and not bringing like the Q or M series. So instead of, I brought the SL for me on the trip, and it was also very nice to rethink things differently and not going with zone focusing and an analog or digital M or the Q and waist level photography like you always did. So I need to rethink with the SL3. And I tried to come up with a little concept before, and I was thinking what could be a good fit. And I asked on social media if somebody is around Bangkok, and now friend told me I'm in India, but I like the idea. I fly over. He flew over. I arrived, I think, 2 days before the shoot, and we just went on a day. The day before, I was just a little bit scouting, and I just found a couple of very nice places. I called the skateboard community, hey guys, I'm in Bangkok. I would love to bring my roots also into this theme, into this video project and this campaign. And some people responded. I also met a couple of friends from Germany. They were in Thailand at the moment, but we didn't know that we meet on this day. It was also like a very nice coincidence. But so it just happened. In the end, we only spent 1 day. We were open-minded. We went to the football guys. We went to the basketball guys. I even played with the basketball guys because they asked me to play a little bit with them. I was sweating for 2 hours. I really enjoyed it, but it was not the best idea to do it on that day. But it was so much fun, and this also brought me a little closer to the basketball guys. This brought me a little closer to the football guys. Even at the street gym, I was talking with the people. Sometimes you have this language barrier, but the camera, some body movement, some smiling, it just worked all together. And we wrapped up at Sundowner. And I think in the end, this is something I really love.
Yeah.
It was just a project that felt very natural. I think it was a very nice cooperation with Bene, now a very good friend, who fly over and took the opportunity. And also with the Leica family, because we asked at the Leica store Bangkok if they could come up with a couple of SL glass. And they said, okay, what is the idea? We pitched them the idea. We said it's from Germany, the headquarters asking for the video. And they did not even ask for like a passport as a deposit. We just collected the lenses and we just brought them back. And they were so happy with it.
Amazing.
And all in all, it's just a very great memory, and probably makes the sabbatical even a little bit better because how everything turned out.
Yeah. In this project, you actually say, why do I take photos when I should unwind? Because I love stories. I want to experience and tell them always. Is photography a space for you to decompress as well as your profession?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I never thought about in this aspect, but maybe it's just because. For me, taking up a camera, even if I'm in the studio all day, usually never feels like work.
Yeah.
And since I'm working on my own projects and quit a job at a media agency, I usually don't think about, it's 4 p.m., 2 more hours, and then I'm good to go for the day. Usually I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I usually really love every day. Sometimes it's kind of hard because there's lots of traveling going on, and sometimes it's a little bit too much. I think there's never like a really good mid-range of having a profession and a passion.
Sort of aside from what you've done already, is there a subject matter that you haven't had the chance to photograph that you would like to?
I think...
Or is it secret?
No, definitely not secret. There's some personalities I would love to work on. I think David Bowie would be like an outstanding person because he was also kind of into photography. He was, I think, a very smart and a very special guy. Same with Michael Jordan in his prime, or the work Thomas Höpker did for Muhammad Ali. But I also think that these things grew over the years. I think when Thomas did the pictures of Muhammad, they were not special at the moment as they are today. So I think just continues the work, keep the passion, keep the love for it.
Yeah.
Just keep going, the motivation, doing lots of stuff. And I'm very happy for every day and every opportunity and everything that comes up. And it's just the one we said. There needs to be a success or a special story. And then maybe some pictures I already did or will take in the future maybe are different in 20 years.
Yeah. Sort of from that, what do you do to stay inspired, or what do you activate to stay inspired?
I buy a lot of old Olympic books, like from the 60s and 70s, and I try to find these for inspiration in sports. I think there are also lots of possibilities to think outside of the box. I think I should not even, or you should not even not only look for sports photography. Like Matt Stewart is a great street photographer. There's so many great stuff you can come up from his work and be inspired to bring it in your work. Just try to think your situations differently. Like maybe a music photographer or maybe like a landscape guy would compose his pictures.
Yeah.
And so I try to look at a lot of different things. I come also up with like saving great inspiration on Instagram. But for me, it helps most watching on recent work of icons and great persons, and not trying to come up with the same, but also add your special craft and your own vision to the pictures. So I think Walter Eyes Jr., he's a timeless storytelling, sports, commercial portrait guy.
Yeah.
He's doing great work for, I think, 4 decades already, or Neil Leifer. And just getting the inspiration from these guys and buying the books and trying to also listening to them. Going on the research of old interviews, podcasts, to understand the vision, just the way to the picture. Not only looking at the pictures and say, okay, it's like this, and maybe it's this lens and the shutter speed, but what leads him to the photo? What was the idea? What was like the work around it? How could I come up with a different photo, but with a similar idea on a different topic? This helps me a lot, and also putting notes in a journal. And I also love to go through this great book from Magnum, Contact Sheets. I think it's called like this, but I think you find it with these 2 words. And just seeing like the progress of 36 pictures of photographers, how they ended up on the final frame. Yeah,
incredible. What have you learned from working with elite athletes, would you say?
That's a tough one. You need to be really focused on the stuff you do. And I also think you really have to find love for what you're doing if you want to do it on a high level, if you want to do it for a long time, and if you want to have also fun and enjoy the process of doing it. And I think this was the core idea, or the main idea, why I always said no to weddings. I did not even ask for the money, even if I could earn it back then. And it's just a Saturday. But I wanted to come up on Saturdays with skateboarding. I wanted to come up on Sundays with the stuff I really loved. And I think you really need to focus on what you really love, to have time to work on it. And there is, I'm not too good at it, to be focused on like only the main things. But this is, I think, the stuff these elite athletes always working on, being with a lot of focus and passion on the stuff you really love. And I think there are lots of things left and right, but I think this is the main point. But also practice. Like practice. People ask me why I did not stop working at a basketball club. I've seen everything. Maybe I did, but it's also very nice to be in the process of doing and trying new things. Also not stick with the old. You always need to, and I think this is also something I learned from different athletes, you need to evolve when getting older. You may be not the quickest, but you may be the most intelligent shooter on the field. And I think this is something I also try to bring in my photography. I'm not the youngest. I won't come up with a TikTok trend. Everybody says, oh my God, have you seen this guy? He's crazy young. I won't. But maybe I come up with high quality stuff, which feels also new and fresh. But I won't come up with a TikTok trend.
Yeah.
So evolving.
It's great. I think it's a nice sort of moment to, say thank you for being here and being part of the podcast. To sort of end the podcast, we ask a few recurring questions, which I'll go through now. So from today onwards, you can only shoot with one aperture. Which would it be?
2.0. I just love to, if I need to decide, I think a little bit more close is also very nice, but I really fell in love with the 28 millimeters on the Q, and I would even go with 1.7, just very wide open on the 28 millimeters. It's a very special look.
If your camera could talk, what would it say about you?
Why is it always wet and snowy?
Why?
Yeah, when looking back at the Olympics, definitely, yeah.
Which photograph of yours changed the way you see photography?
It was definitely at the workshop with French Fred. I shot a skateboarder under a bridge because it was raining.
Yeah.
And it was a silhouette.
Yeah.
And the silhouette is all black, like a silhouette should be. And in the background, it's heavily raining.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back to the picture. This is still a very special moment for me.
If you could go back to the first time you picked up a camera, what would you tell yourself?
I saw the camera in two pieces. The first camera I picked up because I wanted to look down like into a medium format camera. And I would maybe say him not to cut the light meter.
Noted. Do you have a young or emerging photographer on your radar that you think deserves more attention?
I think there are so many I could name now. But I think even more important at this stage is not to look too much left and right. And don't try to jump on the next trend and change your perspective. I think this is the moment where I should say not to look too much left or right and just keep going on your own vision, trying to get your own photography signature and stuff.
Yeah.
And don't look for views and likes and stuff. It will come.
Yeah.
If you come up with great work, it will definitely come, and there will be attention, and 100, 1,000, or 100,000 likes doesn't mean anything if you don't love it and if you can't come up with it frequently.
Philipp, thank you so much for being here. It's been a complete pleasure talking to you and learning about your photography, so thank you.
Luis, thank you so much for the invitation. I really loved the conversation, and thank you so much.